Hello, friends. You were expecting me to say, what is up with it? But no, I
But
reserve that for the actual Melee It On Me show. So,
can't
hello,
say split it.
friends. And this is me and Chibo Senpai. And here we're just going to discuss some issues we want to talk about regarding the Genesis 3 Compendium. So, Chibo made a video. When did that go up? It
Uh,
went up on December 3rd, so a week ago
Wednesday, I
today.
think.
Yeah, a week ago today. Um, with some criticisms about the Genesis 3 compendium. And, there was some negative feedback towards the compendium around that time. And, we tried to respond to some of that feedback uh, after those videos and the Reddit stuff came out. So, kind of the first thing I'd like to do is maybe let you kind of take the lead for a second. Obviously, there's the committee has seen changes since you made the video. So maybe you can talk about your opinion of how we responded to it. Maybe any points that you made in the video that have changed since then. So yeah, just go ahead and talk about whatever you feel like right now.
Sure. So there's really no need to talk too much about like what the Compendium was, and more focus on about like what it is now. Otherwise, we just be kind of wasting time here. But otherwise, I think it was responded to very well. There were posts pretty quickly by just about everybody. You, Bear, Smash GG staff, and then you contacted me about coming on this show, which is great. I really appreciate that. And I'll be making a follow up video as well once I have a little bit of time. I'd
Great.
say the only negative part about the whole response to the video, which I didn't expect to have like any kind of impact that it did, was right away on day one of making that video that the prices were changed. It was almost just like, was there a backup plan? Like, how did you guys like change the compendium levels so quickly? To, like, I can't imagine all the Genesis 3 staff and Smash G staff were contacted so quickly. This was done like in a matter of hours, and it almost seemed
So
like a little knee
yeah.
jerkish in a way.
Well, we just wanted to get the compendium live as soon as possible. We wanted to stay kind of in the time frame that Big House compendium went live, like kind of keep the same. Like they went live a certain amount of time before Big House, and they finished a certain amount of time before Big House, and we were just kind of trying to match that interval. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's possible that we just went up a little more hastily than we should have, but we also wanted to take advantage of I don't know. So like there's Black Friday and Cyber Monday and whatever, and there's also Sean, who's from Smash GG, mentioned this to me, but there's like another kind of uh, consumer holiday, if you want to call it that, following those that has to do with like donating to people and
I know
charity
that.
and whatnot. So apparently, I have no idea, but apparently that's a thing, and so we wanted to go live for that. So, so
Yeah,
yeah,
going live definitely makes sense. I more meant like the change from
right,
Compendium version 1 to Compendium version 2 is I guess what I mean. Like the
yeah.
re
So
oh,
I don't remember exactly like when they made the changes, but we all got together on Saturday for several hours and discussed like a lot of the changes, some of which went live that weekend, and some of which went live today as well. So yeah, I mean, when you go get things up too fast, sometimes you don't notice changes that you need to correct right away. And I'm guessing that like maybe some of those were the ones that you noticed that got corrected like in a matter of hours.
mhm. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think a good thing to highlight here, especially if people in the chat haven't noticed yet, with the changes to the compendium from like the very first version to like what it is now. I kind of outlined some of the changes here. So what happened was uh, the Genesis 3 team is essentially getting $9,600 less, and that's because of taking it that they only get 60% of basically everything because Smash GG said that about 40% is reserved for creating the products, fees associated with running it and
Yeah.
such.
And
And
that's
then,
like that's kind of a squishy number because it really
yeah,
depends on how like the things that people buy are distributed. Because like
Mm.
on some items have different margin than others. So like we
Some
can't
are
know ahead
zero,
of
some
time.
are physical
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. We can't know ahead of time what it's going to be, but you tend to plan conservatively. And also another important thing to mention is that like when you look at the margins on like each of the levels, right? Um, I think what we tried to do and what I think makes sense to do just from a the perspective of a team that is operating with a budget is that we want to make kind of the largest margin first,
Yeah.
and then the later levels have like a smaller margin. So I mean that's kind of how like we just want to guarantee a certain amount of money, and then after that point, like we can go almost like no margin on like some of the higher levels because we're already getting a certain amount once we've reached like the higher levels.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So outside the money difference, which is about 10K or so, there was one flight change, and that was from City of Melee winner is no longer being flown out, and instead we're getting a bait from Pennsylvania. There are $2,500 more in pot bonuses, and there's no more dance party, man. What happened to dance
So
party?
now the city of Melee guy is still getting flown out, and
Oh,
the bait
it's
got
not on
moved
there
to a
anymore.
different level.
Did I just miss reading that? Let's see.
He should be at least
Oh wow.
I
Okay, I
see him at
did.
level 6, and then it baits at level 5.
Okay, yeah, they rewrote it because they changed it from winner of City of Melee being flown to actually putting his name there with the italicized text.
Hmm.
Smoke. I just
Yeah,
missed that and rereading if they changed the name. All right, so that's cool. So really, it was
yeah,
just a bait being added.
yes. So we added a couple things and we took out a couple things. We merged like two levels that were not like that exciting. We kind of merged into one level. So like as you may have noticed, there's 11 levels now instead of 12, and I think it's right now is like level 10 and another one got like merged into one or something like that. But anyway, yeah, so about the dance party, that is just it's really just kind of a logistical nightmare
Hmm.
to make that happen, and it costs a lot.
Yeah, honestly, like I was like when I went through the original compendium list, I was like, this is the one goal that's like either equal or like costs way more than that level actually does because like
Yeah,
they don't have like an exact like roster or anything on their website, but it looks like it's potentially like 8 to 10 people all coming from New York City with
yeah,
instruments and everything. That's just like it honestly got me kind of hyped for it. But like I can imagine if you guys can't do it because that is like quite a big thing.
yeah, and like the extra production and logistics we'd have to do to have them on stage and get the sound system correct for all of them. Like you basically have to hire another person to just be solely in charge of the sound system for that
Hmm.
for 2 days, and it's a lot of work. And I think we kind of decided that we just want to make sure we get all the basics right at this Genesis, and then if Sakurai willing, there are more, then we can do some extra fun stuff.
Great. So highlighting those changes though, what that brings me to my first point here is so with the bait being added, give or take $500 from PA, it's not that much. 2,500 in pop bonuses. You're basically like losing $3,000. You're gaining about $3,000 by not having the dance party. But you guys are getting $10,000 less. So like I understand some things could have been rushed initially, but like $10,000 is kind of like a really huge oversight to have potentially charged the community, and it just kind of dropped off into this void.
Right. Well, we didn't. I mean, at a certain point, like the margin. I think the way we had it set up with like the dance party and whatnot, like the levels before were like pretty high margin, and then after that, I mean, so actually,
I more mean
Kyle
like
gave
an
us
assumption if every level was hit, basically. Like
right.
if all this money is collected, what it goes to then, what it goes to now. Um, the fact that we're able to do like it's about equal is what the compendium was then and now, but it costs 10,000 less now. So I'm wondering why it was basically like overcharged by 10,000 initially, assuming you guys aren't dipping out of your pocket now.
Uh, I mean, so we've got a document I can't share it publicly, obviously, but
Yeah.
it kind of tracked like what our expected margin is at each level.
Hmm.
And uh, I mean, we first it's important to note that like our margin at each level is much less than $4,000,
Yeah.
even when even if like each of those, even if like the level for 4,000 was cost us nothing to do,
Hmm.
it's still between $1,000 and $1,500 to produce the things that we sell on the site.
Yeah.
So the production cost of the things that we're selling. So as far as I can tell, like based on like the versions of the documents that we had for the margins before and after, it it looks to me to be about the same. If anything, like the rewards that we added are putting us at like a slightly less margin, a slightly smaller margin. Um, if we get to level 11 at this point, or actually level 10, and then level 11 is actually doesn't cost us a whole lot except
Mm.
for time and effort. So like that would actually raise our margin a little bit. So like if we got to level 10, that's actually where our lowest margin is. And that's pretty comparable to where it would have been if we got to level whatever it is.
Mm.
So it's um, you know it, I haven't done. I'd have to see like exactly how you did the math to respond to that like with my own numbers. I can tell you
Mm.
is like the margin's pretty similar. And as far as like the band getting flown out, Kyle actually gave us like several different plans, I guess.
Mm.
Like his full band is actually like 20 people or something like that, which
Mm.
obviously couldn't do.
Yeah.
But even flying out just like a few people, like it wouldn't have really the same effect if we just flew out him and like three other people, which was the minimum option.
Yeah. It wouldn't be
And
the
then
Kyle big band.
yeah, and then there's also like this, you still have a pretty decent sized amount of overhead just to have that in the first place.
Mm.
So I mean,
Well, I know that like there's
yeah,
no way I could like estimate how much each thing is and how much overhead is at each level. That's why I was only
yeah,
doing it by changes and like pop bonuses are like super easy to track to change with this literally just a dollar amount and there's 2,500 more now than there was
right.
before. Um, but even it's like having no idea how much the dance party plans could have actually been, like give or take 2 grand here, it just really
Mm-hmm.
doesn't add up. And there's just so much extra money there at the beginning that like I'm glad it's changed now and it's better. But it just kind of makes you think that like if the compendium had never changed, like by all means, I'm all for like the staff of Genesis making money and stuff like that. I just don't think it should be coming from the compendium because this really makes it seem like this is like a drive for people to buy stuff and support Genesis getting extra things, like it basically like DLC. So like
Mm-hmm.
don't do any compendium, the event's completely fine. Now it feels like with the compendium, with the extra money that was there in the first round and some of the choices here, uh, it feels like we're paying more for making the tournament happen rather than those extra DLC things like pot bonuses or
Mm-hmm.
like I don't see why we have to pay money for a brawl tournament of legends, which based on what you just said not long ago, it was really just time and effort. There's no pot for that, so there's no actual real money there.
Right.
And then I think the biggest thing that uh, was originally my biggest issue with the compendium, and a lot of other people have a problem with, is level 4 TK and EE coming to the event. Why are we paying for some of the best Wii U commentators come out there? Like, why wouldn't they already be on staff? And even if they're not on staff and they're not commentating, like these are people that like if they're as big into the community that they say they are and that they act like it, like who doesn't want to go to Genesis? Like I've been in this community for
Mm-hmm.
like 8 9 years. Like Genesis happens. Like I was so distraught by not going to Genesis 2. I made it to the first one. I'm already booked for the third one. Like if you can have your donators throw you $300 in a half hour, why
Mm-hmm.
would you not fly to Genesis? Like this is like where smashers go. Like and for people like
Yeah.
this, they're like it's so assumed to go. Like and not even to beyond that, but if you want them to commentate there, as Genesis staff, like I've staffed many big tournaments as well. When you look for commentary staff and you think of Wii U, they're going to be two of the first names you think of. And I don't know why
Okay.
we're paying for the social
So
media coverage.
right.
And
So that's two things there. So let me respond to the second one first. So a few things to say about that is um, one of the reasons like that we like to do this all on Smash GG is it takes pressure off of the people to ask their fan base for money,
Hmm.
and it also centralizes like the organization and the accountability and responsibility to make sure the money actually gets to where it needs to go. That way, like if something doesn't add up, it's you can just it's Smash GG, and that's where you can go to figure out if something went wrong. Whereas if you have a bunch of like decentralized donation drives and each streamer is doing their own thing, it puts more responsibility on them. It's more accountability for them. Like they need to have like their own transparency about all that. So I think it makes sense to put it all into Smash GG to take care of that.
Right.
As far as like, would they come anyway? Like, so as far as I understood, I saw a tweet saying that they were initially not planning on coming. And as you know, like we're streaming with Showdown and not with VG Bootcamp. So presumably, if VG Bootcamp were coming, then they would have just come anyway because that's who they're affiliated with. Now, I do kind of agree that you know getting streamers and casters out there should be part of the tournament budget.
Hmm.
And right now, I mean, I can tell you that Genesis 3 is by far the most expensive tournament that has ever been run by not Evo. And um,
I believe it. Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we have to take care of and a lot of unknowns. And if I had my way, maybe I would prefer to have changed the levels a little bit and just flown them out anyway. Maybe it's I think that is, if there's one valid criticism, it's definitely that. It's like it's just maybe just a difference in philosophy between me and everybody else. Is I kind of don't like putting things that are already going to be done anyway.
Hmm.
So I mean, yeah, I think we can take the hit on that one for being an oversight in how we structured it. But I think I want to defend everything else. So, for
Hmm.
example, like the Brawl Tournament of Legends,
Yeah.
like you said, it's just time and effort that we have to spend to make that happen. But I think time and effort is something that deserves to be rewarded,
Yeah.
especially like given how much how difficult logistically it actually is to get this thing to happen. And if you look at if you compare it to some of the rewards for Big House 5, for example, um, like unlocking the regional cruise, that is just time and effort. And yes, there were part of the rewards were the bonuses to that, but I mean the money that went to that was far below like what the actual margin is was for that level. So I feel like that criticism you could really apply to, I mean, most of the things, well, I don't know about most, but several of the things that were on the compendium for the Bakehouse 5 or Tipped Off 11. So if you want to criticize that like as an idea, like as in, maybe time and effort are worth something, but maybe that not that much, that's fine. But I think that's
Hmm.
more of a criticism of how the Smash community in general has done their compendia and not what we're specifically doing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's still a new concept. It's still like growing and
yeah,
changing, and like the Raw Tournament of Legends, like in particular, is a really easy one to compare because it's the very last level. So basically, if we hit level 10 and just stop, then everything from 1 to 10 should happen. Where 11 is
mhm,
just like, all right, we hit it, and I feel like it has some of the most minimal impact on like kind of overhead on the other levels. Where so two things happen at level 11 as acid gets flown out from Delaware, so
yeah,
that's $600 probably for hotel stay and flight. So basically, if you guys are making 2,400 on every level, and if it takes 600 to bring him out, the time and effort to run an 8-person bracket, $1,600. As if so, I would love a TO gig for Genesis 4.
hmm I mean, that's a lot of this also is to just cover our margin just in general to make sure that it's hard to put in in a compendium, oh, you know, a certain part of this is just going to the overall production of the event. Like, you can't put at level 11 increased production quality generally of the tournament. Like, that doesn't excite anybody. Nobody's gonna that's like a very nebulous thing. But ultimately, that's what most of the margin of this is going to is it's going to make sure that we can do the event that we want to do. Yeah, and I would prefer not to. I mean, I'm not saying your way of looking at it is invalid, but I would prefer. I think the right way to look at it is like as a whole. And
Mhm.
the reason that I mean, yeah, it is a large margin for that event, but that's kind of covering some of the smaller margin levels in its place. So like some of our other levels have a much smaller margin than 1600, and so that's kind of there to cover that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think so. Maybe 1600 if you look at it in a vacuum. Yeah,
Yeah.
if paying somebody $1,600 to run an 8-man invitational, yeah, seems like a pretty good deal.
The
But
reason
that's
why I was thinking of it in the
existing.
vacuum was because it was the very last level. So theoretically, if we never even got $1 in that level, everything else still happens fine.
That's true. Um, and it's just really it's given everything else that's happening at Genesis, uh, it's a really difficult thing to schedule logistically,
Mm,
and
sure.
we have to have somebody to take care of it, and maybe there is money going into this. Um, I guess it didn't get specified here, but yes, it's not just for fun. So there will be a pop bonus for this.
Okay.
But I don't have the numbers for that in front of me. So maybe that's why the margin is looks higher than it really should be, is because there is money going into that.
Okay.
Um, and so, kind of on a similar note, uh, looking at the items like Zoo making his montage, Last Stock Legends coming out to make their documentaries and interviews, having
Mm,
the analyst desk. Those are all things that we're paying them to do. And in your video, you made the point that yeah, Zoo didn't get paid to make his video from Evo,
mm,
and but we think that content creators should get paid a certain amount
definitely. Oh yeah.
to make
Mm.
those things. And
I'm a content creator myself. It's nice to.
yeah, so we're hoping to kind of start that trend, or at least kind of support that trend of giving people money to do the things that they love, so that they can the things that they love can help support their drive, and that can help support their life and
Mhm.
everything that they want to do with Smash.
Yeah.
So I mean, Zoo's getting money. Um, Last Stock Legends, actually, this is probably the lowest margin. We might even, I don't remember what the numbers are, but we might actually even be losing money on this one. Um, and the analyst desk. Like, these are all things that we're paying for people to do, and that it costs time and effort to schedule to make sure that these things happen the way that we and they want to happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, of course, there's got to be some margin for us in there as well, because we want to make sure that this tournament happens the way we want it to.
Mm. I agree with everything you just said. Definitely. I think it's great to reward people for their work, and the more money we put into them, the better stuff that they can create. I just want to clarify the reason why I made a lot of these comments, at least in the video compared to the first version of the compendium, is Zoo's videos were part of two different compendiums or two different levels, and I tended to look a little bit more like in the vacuum sort of things, just because of how I said earlier, they're by level. So like if you didn't reach a
Mm-hmm.
certain part, all those other parts become invalid and can't help the other part.
That's true.
And like Zoo's first epic montage was part of level two, where there was a $1,000 pop bonus in Zoo's montage, and I figured like of $4,000, maybe like 1,000 of it goes um, to Smash EG. So I didn't count for 40%. I counted more for like 25% or so. And if
Yeah,
you're giving a
even
$1,000
25
pop bonus,
percent.
like
Yeah, even 25% is like a possible number.
yeah.
So
So I was
it's
thinking like
not it's on the low end, but it's not completely unfair.
yeah. So like honestly, when I made the comments about Zoo, like I thought like it looked like he was being paid just for the one level alone, not the second one with the
Hmm.
interviews. He was making 2 grand, and I'm like, to go from like zero doing it for free to 2 grand is like any starting business would absolutely love that. And I like when people were making how much it costs for videographers to come out and cover an event in San Jose, like, but these people aren't invested in Smash and aren't going to be enjoying their time there. Like, no matter what, Zoo's going to be there having a good time. He's going to enjoy recording this too.
Hmm.
Like, it's not like the same drudging work where like if we can pay him like 500 or 1,000, like, and stepping up to improve his work and then probably submit like quotes to other tournaments and do this, but like giving him 2,000 out of the community is just like I love supporting people. It just seemed overboard with the amount, so it was a little
Right.
bit lower of an underhead before with what you're explaining. It's just that that's where I was coming from, really.
Yeah. So as you know, there's the $1,000 pot bonus, so that leaves 3,000 somewhat unexplained, and we don't have a. I don't want to say how much we're giving Zoo. It's not two
Yeah,
thousand
don't.
dollars, but
It seemed like that though,
if
which is why I was
there
like,
is, yeah, I mean, some distribution of $3,000. Some of that is going to Zoo, and some of that is going to us.
yeah,
Of course, once you subtract off the cost of all the stuff that we're making, so it's 3,000. Some of it goes to Zoo, some of it goes to us, some of it goes to the cost of production. So even if you figure maybe 1,000 for cost of production, which is 25%, if that's 50-50, then that's 1,000 to each of us.
yeah. Out of curiosity, why do you guys get $1,000 cut from that level?
No, I'm just saying if it were 50-50.
$500.
Well, so there's
Like
there's a
I
$1,000 pot bonus. There's a
seems like this is
thousand
a
for
way for the
production.
community to kind of give stuff to increase the tournament. So if they're giving the money to Zoo to increase the production value of an epic montage, I don't see why Genesis profits from that. And I want you guys to profit, but like that's traditionally where the venue fee would come from. Or you could have
Hmm.
like a level and they're like level 12 or whatever that says like give more to the staff because they deserve it. Like
Sure.
I'm all with making money. It's
I
just
think
like that seems weird.
so. Well, I think maybe that's a little bit like a difference in philosophy about what the compendium is. I would hope that people understand that uh, all of the margin of the compendium is also going into the production of the tournament. And if people come at the compendium thinking 100% of this is being donated to either the prize pot or the reward specifically, or just like all going to the player expenses that we're flying out, then maybe you can say that we haven't communicated that correctly. But I feel that that's been an understanding of compendiums since Big House 5, since Smash Summit and TO11. I mean, the complaint that you have, maybe it's not a complaint, maybe it's just a point about how you wish things were different. I feel like that can be applied equally to everything else that's happened in the past. So while your point may be completely valid, it's a little unfair to kind of pin it on Genesis, which is like the feeling that I got from your video is really a lot of those things could be problems with the way Smash community handles compendia in general. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine video to make. But the tone and the way everybody read your video, especially looking at the comments on it, is problems specifically with the Genesis 3 compendium,
Yeah.
which I think is unfair. And as far as like why we get to profit from it, well, we could put it all into the venue fee also, and the way that we've structured it is that there's a certain minimum amount that people should pay to come to the tournament, and then people who think the tournament is worth more, who have more invested in it, or just have more money to spend, they can choose to spend money at the compendium. So we kind of structured, and I mean, Big House and TO11 is not an exception to this. We structure the tournament, we structure our finances with the expectation that everybody is going to pay a certain base level, and we'll get some amount of money from that. And we'll also have the compendium as another set of income. So we'll get money from people who want to buy these things and who want to donate money or whatever. So it's the option between we can have this compendium or we we can have the compendium that's donation only and make everybody's venue fee higher, or we can do it this way. And I'm not saying that ours is the only way to do it. It's just that's what has been done in the past, and I feel that it's fair as long as it's transparent. That yeah, we're the margin of all these levels is going to us to make the tournament, and hopefully get some money from our time and effort putting into the tournament.
That's great. I agree with all of that, but I honestly think that the difference there came from, I guess, my perspective of the compendium because I guess the reason why I was a little bit more invested in this is because of the three main compendiums that have happened. Big House, Tipped Off, and Genesis. This is the only one I've attended because I had other engagements
Mm-hmm.
during the other two events. I couldn't make it. So this is like the first time where I was like, I'm like waiting for the compendium to come out. I want to like participate in it, look at the levels, and I'm like, DK and EE,
Yeah.
what's going on? And then I guess that's what kind of caused me to look over a little bit more. So the whole point about Genesis compendium, not just compendium, is like I guess just as how I saw it through my eyes. And the whole idea of compendium with you guys making money is completely fine. It's just that like when you go to like Smash GG's page on it, it says the Genesis 3 compendium aims to bring even more players, events, and perks to the Genesis tournament experience. Like I'm completely fine with that, and I'm fine with you guys making money. It's just like I understand that like transparency is nice, but especially running a business, you can't be transparent about everything. But like it really makes it seem that like 100% of these profits are only going to those things listed. And if it just means like and supporting the Genesis staff for their hard-earned work, like awesome. That's like all it really needed. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you're like everything you just said about Compendium makes 100% sense. It's perfect. I'm not against the TOs making money. It's just that honestly, when I heard Compendium in my mind, I assumed that like it was none of this was supposed to go to the TOs. So that's why I feel
I
like the
see.
community was being overcharged for everything. So now I'm like, well, now are they just using their money poorly? Are they making bad decisions? Or are some people taking it? Do they know what people are taking it? So, like, or is Smash GG charging a lot of money for this? So, like, there was just like this unknown amount that, like, I don't know where it's
Mm-hmm.
going. I don't think anybody really knew. Um, but hearing that definitely eases a lot of concerns.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, so I just hope that that's clear. I mean, it could be maybe we haven't branded it or communicated it properly, but I would hope that that's clear. Like when people come to the compendium and they don't know what it is, hopefully they would be able to read that and say, okay, some of this money is going um, to make the stuff, some of this money is going to the prizes, and some of this money is going to event production. And yeah, obviously event production is if we make more money than it costs to spend to produce the event, then yeah, we're going to end up making money on that. But like it said, it's all this money, like the profits from this and the profits from the venue fee are kind of fungible. So we're putting the money that we get from our margin on the compendium. It doesn't go directly to us. It goes directly into kind of our general fund to spend things on. Is basically what it is. And hopefully we come out positive at the end of all of that.
Sure.
And
Um,
yeah, just to compare it to like what the Big House 5 wording was, is the Big House 5 wording for their compendium is the compendium is a library of content that individuals can unlock online through different levels of donations, which collectively go towards the tourney prize pool, content creators, and event production costs. And what event production cost means is basically what I was just saying about
yeah.
production, and TOs also making some money off of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Um, I guess the only other thing I want to touch on then in this battle between us, as the clickbait puts it. Um,
Yeah.
let me think how to word this. So like just TO 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 here, especially since you've gotten to work with the Compendium and Smash GG's staff. Do you think this is the way to go? Because like I can't help but like compare this to the other donation drives that are going on, and the most successful one is the online SSB fundraiser for the 64 players coming out from international.
Yeah.
For anybody interested, you can go to funding.onlinesssb.com, and they're gathering a maximum of $3,300, which they will succeed. They're like $200 away. They're almost there, and they're going to bring out 8 international players with
Mm-hmm.
less than level 1 of the Genesis Compendium, and everything makes sense with the Compendium now. You've done a great job explaining it. But with the whole 40% fees that comes along with it, and just other preconceived notions of like who should be flown out, maybe like, do you think that maybe it's less than ideal after you've gotten hands on with it?
So I just want to compare. Let's compare it to that Smash 64 fund. So that fund is entirely donations.
Yeah,
It's not things
they
that
don't
you
get
buy.
products.
Right? They don't get products out of it. It's just they want to make those things happen. Um, and they aren't also. There's no cost to the people who are running the thing as well, who are doing the donation drive, except maybe some time and effort to promote it.
Hmm.
And they're also not actually paying the entire cost of the people that are coming out. So, for example, Wario,
Yeah.
who, as you know, in your video, you kind of had that was the first big problem you had was the thing with Wario,
Hmm.
and as you know, like the Wario thing has been absorbed into our compendium, so it's not part of their donation drive anymore. And it was
Hmm.
$500.
Yeah.
$500 is the minimum that he would need to come out to the tournament at all. It's not the
Hmm.
total cost of his expenses and everything to come out.
Okay.
And so it's just that's how much he would need added to the amount of money that he's willing to spend from his own pocket to come out. And so for a lot of these levels, we're paying for the goal is not to give a fixed amount of money, but just to pay whatever it costs for them to come out.
Hmm.
So there's some differences there that makes the comparison a little difficult. Now, as far as like which is the better way, so I've been, I've made the point on Melee and Ami shows in the past a couple times that like I do feel a little uncomfortable if this were to become the norm for every national or every regional in the Smash community, just
Hmm.
because I don't like having to dip into that well so many times.
It's feeling like it.
Eventually,
Like, if
yeah,
admittedly, it felt
it,
a
it
little tacked
does.
on for tipped off.
It does. Uh, and, you know, people are eventually going to say, I don't want this to be how tournaments are funded. Maybe they'll just stop donating. Donations will go down. Eventually, you're going to hit peak compendium at some point, and it's just going to drop off. But I think the way, kind of like how I was making the point about how we split up, our revenue sources for the tournament is it's a way it's a way for people to get merchandise at the same time as donating to the event. A lot of people really just don't want to give straight up money to the event. I have a feeling if we did that, then we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that we want to do, and we wouldn't really get that much money out of it.
Yeah, it'd be like half the money
So,
at most.
yeah. So, and it also like so if people who want it, maybe somebody thinks that $25 for a poster, yeah, that is a little high, that or to their opinion, but they're also going to be able to. They're also contributing to the tournament at the same time. They're becoming part of the community, and they're going towards like helping these rewards happen. So like there's different appeals to each way, and in the future I would definitely like it if we could fund everything off the generosity of sponsors and the venue fee, and just only have like people's votes towards like which things we put on and things like that. But unfortunately, we're not at that point yet. So at
Mhm.
Evo, every other game has their corporate sponsor give them money to have a huge prize pot, help production of Evo, even get them to a better time slot on Evo. But we don't have any of that. So until we do, we have to find some way to make sure that tournaments happen the way that they're supposed to. So I honestly don't know what the best way is. I just do know
Mhm.
that I don't want to keep having a compendium for every single tournament.
Yeah.
But we felt like if Big House 5 has one, if which was very successful, and I think they did a great job with it. Smash Summit, TO11, we figured, it was worth it, and it made sense to do one for Genesis 3 so that we could do extra things and kind of hedge our bets as far as making sure we would have enough money to make the
Mm.
tournament run.
Speaking of money, does Genesis have any big sponsors lined up? There's nothing on website, Smash UG, Twitter, anything.
So yeah, part of the thing is part of the reason like some of the announcements have been late is that we're still talking to different sponsors about like how much space they would need in the venue to set up whatever it is they want to set up, and that changes like kind of how many setups we can put in the venue, how much space for artist alley we can have in the venue, and things like that. So we really hope that all that stuff is going to be resolved in the next week, especially because we're actually going to have the final numbers for Genesis registration. As you know, for everybody that doesn't know, registration for Genesis ends on Monday. And after that, it's only super expensive emergency registration. So make sure you sign up. So yeah, hopefully all that news gets put out in the next week. But also, a lot of the way we budgeted was we had to take into account the chance that we don't get all the sponsors that we want, which, and all of that, like, it's huge fluctuations in your bottom line. And, we don't want to be stuck paying $10,000 or even $5,000 out of our own pocket. I mean, if that's what it comes
Shouldn't
to,
pay a
then
dime.
we'll do that. But
Yeah.
we just really want to make sure that that doesn't have to happen.
Mm.
So, yeah.
And then just like some side stuff. Like, how do you guys decide who gets to be on a compendium? Because I don't think
Right.
Dr.Z
So a
has
lot
ever
of
gotten to
people,
see that
so
at all.
acid seems to be the most common complaint.
Yeah, like
And
I
so
don't want to put
I
him on
don't know.
blast.
I don't know who half of this. I don't know who half of the Wii U players are. In fact, I probably don't know who any of them are.
I didn't know who
But
Acid was either when I saw the compendium. I had to look him up.
yeah, so I have a separate team that helps me with all the Wii U decisions, and a lot of them, I don't know anything about Wii U. Me, Bobak, and Herman, we don't know anything about Wii U, even though we're the Genesis TOs. So I think the responsible thing to do is hire people that know about Wii
Makes
U
sense.
and pay them money and have them make all the decisions for us. And so that's what we do. So ultimately, all the people were as a result of discussions between our two TOs, which are Bear and DC,
Mhm.
and their discussions with Sean. And one other point that goes into that is that for a lot of people are just already coming, and so it's just hard to find people that are not coming and that would come only with the donation drive. It's just kind of like a lot of stuff's already happening. A lot of people are already going. It's hard to find extra incentives in players to fly out. So
Have you
I
guys
mean
thought
that's
of
how
like
that's
doing
how I
like
would
a
explain it. If you want like there's specific reasoning for their players, you would have to ask them. I'm sorry to like have to kind of
no,
pass
it's
the
fine.
buck like that, but
Yeah, that's why
that's
they're
really what
there.
it is.
Have you guys thought of like so right now you have like a call for commentators form out there. Have you ever thought of like doing like a call for compendium out there? Like I can think of people off the top of my mind right now. I think that would be like amazing for this.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess the other thing, which maybe you can speak a bit better, is how is Ice the god of all compendiums with the same like I love New York shirt? Because
Yeah. So
he's been
here's
on
what I
every
here's
compendium sponsored player that can make money. Like
yeah.
we've seen him so many times. Like no offense, he's a great player. I love him, but like, come on.
So here's what I think the reasoning is for that is he's like the cleared number 3 in Europe,
Mm,
but he doesn't make close to the amount of money off of tournaments that Armada and Leffen do. And I mean, his sponsors are not going to pay his expenses to the extent that TSL or TSM and Alliance will. And he's maybe the third best player that is not from the Western Hemisphere,
mm.
and so that's like it's a huge difference in the expense for him to come out to the event. And he also missed the boat on the last two compendia. So I think the idea was there is it's somebody who it it's a lot of work for him to come out to events, and he was really close to getting out there for the last two events. So
Well, he still made it tipped off, and
he
then
did, but that came out of the TO's money and out of his money to some extent. I have no idea like how they allocated the money for that, but yeah, he did come. And yeah, one complaint that you had in the video was, why are you going to make him a compendium goal if it's just going to come out anyway? And
kind of. It's
yeah,
more like I feel like somebody that like has the potential to earn money from Smash that could like smartly put away the money to go to Genesis. Like,
mhm,
DJ Jack is like the easiest example of this, is because he went to a tournament a month ago, did amazing. Like, he's a great player that should come out, but like he went to this tournament and he won over $300 from it less than a month ago. So like any smart Smash player should go. Genesis coming up. The entire world should go to Genesis. I love Genesis. I'm not trying to trash you guys or anything, but like, if I'm a Smash player at a tournament, this guy $300, and I want to go to Genesis, and that's $300 unexpected money. Because honestly, he double eliminated ESAM, caused huge upsets that like I would not have put money on him, or I would have put money on him knocking top three there. He
mhm,
gets all of a sudden. Why are we having to pay for him when he could instead invest his Smash money into going to more Smash? Like, it's not that they shouldn't go or that they have the money. It's more like they have the capability to get money versus people like, all right, so Ice is a better example. Like, it's very hard to come here from Europe, and his sponsor can't pay it for. He doesn't make much money living near Armada and Leffen. So, like, he doesn't really have the opportunity where DJ Jack could, or
mhm,
where like Saul doesn't have the chance because he lives in a harder region and he's means a bottom tier character.
uh-huh.
But it's more just like the ability to get there. I guess is like it's
Yeah,
there for
I
some
mean,
people.
yeah, a lot of things like go into a decision about who to put on the compendium, and you know, it's basically just the popularity of that player. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
do they already have the means to come out easily, like from a sponsor, or are they rich or what? And I kind of don't like going like too much into people's personal finances to like make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, what can they come out? Do they have the realistic means to come out? Are they hype? Are they popular? Are they going to make a big impact on the event? Things like that. And like every TO and every person who donates to the compendium is going to have like different weightings to all those values. So I don't have a problem with you saying like Ice is a bad pick, or the DJ Jack, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, or he's a bad pick. Like you're fine. I think it's fine to have that opinion. It's just that a lot of these things are subjective. There's definitely like obviously you don't want to pick some random player. So like subjectivity doesn't get you a free ride on like every decision.
Mm-hmm.
But there's I think for each of those, right, at least for the melee and the 64 players, there's an argument to be made for each of them. For the Wii U guys, you would have to talk to my guys about it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. I know it's been about 50 minutes, so I promise the last point, because it wouldn't be anything with Chibo on it unless I had to talk about Brawl. Is that I understand there
Yeah.
are some costs with having to actually run the thing and schedule it properly. But why do we have to collectively raise $44,000 to see Brawl? To see 8 players of Brawl? Why
Uh,
can't have Genesis throw us a bone? Genesis 1 and 2 are so great for Brawl.
yeah.
We Apex is gone. We need something. And Smash
So
Con.
a few things is the way is just frankly, from what I've heard from a lot of people, just like the brawl thing hasn't been received by a lot of people, especially not people who are new to the Wii U scene, who didn't transfer over from brawl, and um, I've maybe you've had a different experience than me, but from what I've heard, like just not that many people are hype about it. So, and the way that the levels were structured at that time, my feeling and the whole Genesis staff and Smash GG's feeling was that like there was like a 3 level gap between like 2 levels that we felt were really strong,
Mm-hmm.
and Brawl was like in the middle of one of those 3 levels. So we shifted some around to make it so that the more attractive levels were a little lower down, and hopefully
Makes
like
sense.
make people be um, more inclined to donate to the compendium to buy stuff. and put Brawl kind of at the back because we already had it there. We can't just take it down because we don't want to do it or it's not hype. It's there. So we just kind of put it at the back just for that reason. And there's a lot of things that go into like how you decide where each level goes, but that was really the main reason for that.
Okay.
So yeah, and I agree also that it kind of doesn't look good when you change the compendium levels around too. But I think it would look even worse if we didn't respond to some of the criticism that we got. So like we hope that like we hope that people feel that they were heard and that we switch things around to at least like make it better for people overall.
I definitely understand like why it's placed at the end. That makes a lot of sense. I guess more the concern is why it's even there in the first place. But like, let me throw this to you right now.
Okay.
Actually before I say that, coming from the Brawl community and hearing about it, when people even heard it or like Brawl in the first place, honestly, like there was a lot of excitement about it. I think the excitement started to die down when they saw it was just 8 players and no kind of voting. So like I know we discussed on Facebook earlier that like there's the possibility of voting in some people or debating about the size like between single and double elimination. Like I feel like if you did like 16 players, even single elim for time constraints, and voted in like between 4 and 8 people, like I think you get a much better reception. But maybe if you guys can squeeze Acid into another level, or even if you just keep level 11 to get the extra overhead money, like I'm already going to Genesis. I want to support as much as I can. Like if it's easier on you guys, I will honestly help take that entire burden off you guys, and I expect nothing for it. If like you don't have to give an answer, just like want to throw out like I will bring a stream rig. I will help pick people. I will help find a voting process. I want to do what I can to make sure that this is better. And even just, I think taking it off the compendium honestly would be like saying a lot for Genesis, and like really get like that's the response you guys need. Because like right now you're not seeing much hype about it, which is what you said, and that's why you moved back, which is completely like appropriate. But I think it's that extra step forward that I would love to do for you guys, and I don't care, like whatever it takes.
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't decided on the final format for it or the schedule, but our goal with having it there was it wasn't necessarily to include the Brawl, like a whole bunch of people in the Brawl community into Genesis. It was to showcase just high-level Brawl skill and just kind of more about generating the excitement for Brawl gameplay, because I remember seeing at Super Smash Con that especially like just Mewtwo King's run through the Brawl bracket, like that was some of the most excitement that Brawl players had witnessed in a really long time. And so it's that emotion, that excitement that we wanted to generate with the Brawl Invitational. We just really don't have the time or resources to have anything bigger than that, especially if we want to stream everything, which was the goal for the Brawl Invitational. Yeah. So that's our philosophy behind it, and I think we're going to go forward with how we execute it with that ideal in mind. So 16 people, I think, sounds a little far-fetched. Even if we did a single elimination, I just have the feeling that
like
we want every
we
just want every single match to be exciting.
Yeah.
We want to have like the highest density of good matches. And that's not to take away from like 9 through 16, but you know that the first round of that bracket would probably just not be as exciting as the rest of the tournament. So eventually, I mean, you have to make a cut. You have to make a cut somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's where we think the cut right now is reasonable. And then like the fact that you like on your video said we know exactly right. We could pick exactly right now who those 8 people are going to be. Like that to me is an indication that there's a pretty. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea who would be like after 6 or 7 in Brawl, but to me that's like an indication that it's really the top 8 that matter.
it's not that it just like that it matters, but it's almost like I can tell you the top five at every single melee tournament, but I've seen those five people fight each other over and over and over. But sometimes some of the best matches we see are like that fifth through 15 spot that like we would have never seen how close X and West Balls can get to being the top five. So especially in like a year after the game's kind of sort of faded out, where
Mhm.
we can see these upsets again, we can see more character diversity. Where if we just pick those same kind of top eight, like we know we're going to be getting six Meta Knights, we're going to be getting M2K, Zero, ESAM, Nakat,
Yeah,
etc.
right.
Like it'll be all great, but like we know what there is. Where I feel like when you have this amount of people in the same venue, like that top 16 would honestly like be something huge, especially with, like the international attendance as well. And if you guys are looking for a way to just make it like as good as possible, like I'll help like in terms of not coordinating. The word just kind of slipped out of my mind. Like consulting for it, I guess. But
Hmm.
if you want that kind of
Yeah, I
level of
mean,
hype, there's ways to make it happen. I promise.
yeah, I definitely hear the argument about like, the people who aren't expected to go far to somehow just like end up in the bracket. Thank you. But like that's a storyline that builds up over the course of a tournament, and we just can't have a tournament. So like, I
Yeah.
feel like putting somebody in 16 that like, oh, this is somebody that we speculate might have been able to make a run through the bracket. It's a little contrived. Um, and this is all me speaking about like I'm thinking about how I would do it if this were a melee event because like I said I don't know who the brawl people are past like 5 or 6. So yeah, that's just my feeling about it. So
Okay. Do you think that so right now there's like the crew captain voting for the Smash draft.
mhm.
Do you think if say you were to open up the additional people for the sake of like basically everything you just said, potential time, potential hype, but like then kind of speaking to the Brawl community, look, we're making an effort to make it bigger here. You guys get to vote for those extra four players. Do you think that could actually bring in a lot more money to Compendium, help raise money for the tournament, and it's a viable kind of trade off?
It's possible. Yeah. Um, it's just that we've seen strange things happen when you let people vote. If you leave it entirely up to them,
Well, yeah,
like
have to have some kind of
looking
moderation.
at the
Melee hell.
compendium. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the original reason that we didn't go with that was basically for that reason. So I mean we're still open to ideas, but it feels like at this point like doing a donation right now, especially since it's not guaranteed to happen. I don't know. It's in one sense it's like a little late. In another sense it's too early because this is like we're putting something new in that people might have wanted to spend their money on instead, but then we're not even sure if it's going to happen. So it would only make sense to put it in after it happened. So I don't know. I mean, it's not out of the question, but it doesn't feel like that's the route that we'll be going presently.
All right. I think that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Good hour show.
Yeah.
Anything
Um, I
you
just
want to
wonder.
ask me
I'm
as well?
looking through
Sorry.
the chat to see if anybody has any questions for us.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch it the whole time. I tried to incorporate a lot of their questions.
Mostly people are just talking
Well,
about like who should be like compendium rewards for flights and stuff, and then it kind of devolved into a discussion about like who's good, who's an up and comer, who's whatever.
it evolved in the Twitch chat.
Yeah, basically. Um, okay. All right. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay. Well,
Cool.
thanks a lot for coming on, and thank you
I'm
everybody
very
for
happy
tuning
with
in.
everything and how you explained it.
Yeah, I hope everybody had their questions answered. If not, you can PM me or post on Reddit where I won't read it.